I guess I can just talk a little bit more about my background in general, and then I'll talk about the crypto portion of my background. I'll try to imbue some life lessons in there, some good key takeaways, and then we'll happy to open up to Q&A. Cool. So thank you, Rhett, for having me here. I think when I was an undergrad, I was very insecure and obsessive over status and prestige and making money and a lot of stuff that you probably shouldn't be caring over. But that's because I was like a first generation college student. No one told me how to get anywhere in life. I actually went to Indiana University undergrad, go Hoosiers. And so I went through undergrad just trying to navigate my way through life and figuring out what I wanted to do. Distinctly remember there was a consulting workshop. They accept like 15 people into it, and it's like a public school, so like we're not like an Ivy League. But if you got into the consulting workshop, then like McKinsey and like BCG like looked at your resumes, and like there's people that got internships at those like very prestigious firms. And then I did not get accepted in the consulting workshop, and it made me really salty. I eventually applied for like 160 plus internships my junior year. I only got one offer, and through that one offer, it made me eligible to apply to a summer program at Harvard Business School. So I applied and I got in because I'm a pretty decent essay writer. And then through that experience, I got recruited to join IBM for its management consulting position. And yeah, I got that consulting job. So shout out Professor Rubin at IU, you can suck it. I got my consulting job. And then once I started consulting, I was like, oh wow, it's like I spent my whole undergrad life trying to chase consulting, and then I finally got the consulting job. And then it was like it was miserable. It's very hectic. It takes a heavy toll on you physically. Um, you're traveling every single week. So it sounds glamorous. Like I can tell you that, hey, I lived in 17 cities in 3 years. Yeah. It sounds good on a cocktail party, but in real life, like I never cooked. I never developed relationships with people long term. It's hard to develop friendships. So consulting certainly has a road warrior type of lifestyle. But it was a great life experience. What I learned from consulting was that it's not really the company you work for, it's the people you work with. And what I like about consulting is that you for every 1 year of experience you get in consulting, it's like 3 years of experience anywhere else because you're constantly changing clients, you're changing industries, you're changing what you do, you're changing bosses. It's completely new environment, so you quickly see what you like and don't like, right? So that is the thing I'm thankful for in consulting. And it taught me to be a really great liar and a really great at holding my emotions back and be really good at bitching at customer service because apparently that's how like you get reward points. So again, like yeah, real world jades you. Yeah. Sorry if I'm talking fast today. There's a lot of content to get through. Um, but this is recorded, so it's fine. So yeah, I did the consulting thing. And then after a couple years, I had an opportunity to do an internal transfer at a think tank at IBM. And I went and I did that. And actually, the re is this sorry, Rhett, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Is this going to be on a website afterwards or like a YouTube or anything or no?
Depends if you wanted to or not.
Okay. All right. All right. So once we're off recording, I'll tell you some scandalous stories, all right?
All right. Yeah, don't get in trouble.
Yeah. All right. So I did a research think tank at IBM and I basically created startups at IBM. So lots of fun. And yeah, like it was theoretically interesting because you got to create startups before you did a line of code, you already had 5 million revenue lined up. It theoretically solved product market fit, which is the hardest problem in startups, before we had any commitment. So that was theoretically interesting. But in the think tank that I was working in, I was kind of the operations guy. So I saw how that model fails in real life. So that motivated me when I went to Wharton for my MBA, to go and research this very subject. So for my MBA at Wharton, I created my own research major around global innovation. And I basically researched in a lot of Fortune 500 companies. I did projects with them. I helped them set up like global innovation centers as like part of my school curriculum. So that was tons of fun. I'm a first generation college student, so like I didn't really need to do an MBA, but I wanted to conceptually, even though it's like $200,000, because I just conceptually wanted an MBA. And it was a great life experience. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was during that time when I was in my MBA program that I met an 18-year-old undergrad freshman. And that freshman wanted me to help him with his science project. And I was like, that's adorable, undergrad 18-year-old. I can be your advisor, right? And the more I worked with him, the more I was like, oh my God, like this guy's actually really smart. And he's like not eccentric. He has like a pretty cool personality. And if there's one thing, you remember what I learned from consulting, it's not the companies you work for, it's the people you work with, right? So I agreed to be a full-time co-founder. We brought on a third person. Our startup was like a blood testing device company at your home blood testing device. So yeah, we got compared to Theranos like every day. People would be like, "Hey, have you heard of a company called Theranos?" And I'd be like, "Oh, tell me more." So yeah, that was interesting. And that was like during the rise of Theranos. And then by the time my startup ended, it was after the scandal had already occurred, right? So very different perspectives there. But through that experience, a lot of tenacity that came from it. I can deep dive into the startup stuff if someone wants to ask me about what like that experience and those lessons. But so much of it was just a grind. Like when you're doing a startup, you realize that like, you're dying every day, basically. You're running out of money. Like Y Combinator calls it a virus. It takes away all your money. It takes away time from your family and your friends. It drains all your energy. It's the only thing you obsess about. You really should just try to cure it. And if you can't cure it, then you should try to like address it, right? So being a startup is very consuming. It's not a job. It's like your soul, right? So it was a very intense period of my life. And great experience. After we got an OIC, we got a partnership with NASA. We got a partnership with a couple of big hospitals. We raised at a $10 million valuation. And then it was at that point that I took a personal exit from the startup. So pretty solid exit. I wrote my own exit, so I was pretty happy with the terms. I still have 5% equity as they're doing clinical trials. I just don't want to be like clinical trial bro the rest of my life. I helped the startup to be a legitimate point where we had hospital partnerships. We had people at major institutions supporting us and mentoring us, and who knows how to get FDA approval. So mission accomplished for me. That wasn't my calling. So I went back to my MBA program because I took a year off. I graduated. And then I did corporate VC for a while. So investing and partnering with external startups was half of my job in Silicon Valley. The other half of my job was kind of nurturing and mentoring and supporting internally incubated startups from like employee startup ideas and kind of running that program at Tata Communications. So really enjoyed that time, did that for about 2 years. And then from there, had an opportunity to work at Humana as a senior product leader. They had their own startup that they were working on that had like $100 million annual budget. It was like the #1 priority of the CEO. And they brought me in to lead the whole product strategy for the organization. So I was brought in to create the process and the framework of how we prioritize what we build at the startup. based off my own startup experiences as a founder, and then like doing portfolio stuff for startups in my VC role. So I did that for 1.5 years. And then what happened was that I got into crypto. So I guess that brings it to part B of this story today, right? My crypto story. So I was really into Bitcoin in like 2013 when I was in consulting, traveling everywhere. I went to so many Bitcoin meetups, like probably more than 8 or 9 of them. And I love the technology, but the people were crazy. They were like anarchists. They're like, follow the dollar. We're gonna hyperinflate. Like the Federal Reserve is gonna collapse. We're gonna buy Starbucks with Bitcoin. And I was like, the technology doesn't scale that way. This is pre-Lightning Network, right? And the US dollar is backed by something called nuclear weapons. And a lot of countries in Latin America and Africa will hyperinflate before North America does. So we'll get a very clear advance warning of it, right? Like the US is not going to be the first hyperinflating country because we're the reserve currency. Like you guys are idiots. And then I learned through that experience revisiting it later on that it's not about the early adopter crowd. It's about what that future potential crowd looks like. So that was a very expensive lesson for me. I finally got into Bitcoin in 2018 after the crash. So I bought in at 4,000 and just started averaging in and averaging up constantly throughout the years from that point. And I looked into crypto jobs actually in like 2017-ish, but like most of the companies were kind of like exchanges. And I was like, working at a crypto exchange is like not an exciting business model because it's just like a race to the bottom in fees, right? Long term. Like what's a competitive advantage there? And then when I was at Humana, fast forward a couple of years, I started revisiting the crypto scene because I was like starting to put more time into crypto than my actual job. And it was like when I was doing corporate VC, I was looking at crypto technologies as well. I was looking at blockchain technologies and like network infrastructure analytics and whatnot. So yeah, I saw like, hey, what's this BlockFi thing? What's this Celsius thing? You get 6% interest rate on Bitcoin. That makes no sense. So now you're getting an asset with the upside of Tesla to 10x plus a return that is higher than the dividend yield of any Fortune 500 oil company or like a Procter and Gamble. And it's the blue chip. It's the most well-known, respected name in the whole industry. You get all three things, you combine it in the same asset. That's like an unbeatable asset, right? It's the asymmetric upside for that is insane. And then that caused me to, I'm like, what is the business model for this company? Like, how are they not a scam? And then that caused me to reevaluate the whole crypto industry. I got really deep into it. I started having just a lot of informal, like one-on-one conversations with my classmates at Wharton who work in the crypto industry. I'm like, tell me everything you know. And then it kind of reached to a certain point where I became the knowledge center and they're like, you know more about crypto than me. And I created a UPenn crypto Discord group. I started hosting a series of group dinners. I just started becoming friends with a lot of people in crypto. I had a couple of job offers. And then I finally took this one at Amun. And what I'm excited about Amun is that basically we create crypto ETPs. So it's like an ETF, but for Europe. So you can buy cryptocurrencies on your brokerage account, like with stocks and everything. So it's easy accessibility to cryptocurrencies for like boomers, right? And for institutional investors. But recently we started creating 2 months ago a series of index products. And that's what really excites me because when you look at indexes, what you see is that, like you get a diversified access to the whole asset class without, doing the research and seeing which one is better than the other, right? So that's what was really exciting to me, in that I could, say, how do we get the next 100 million people into crypto? Indexes are such a big deal in the stock market world. S&P 500, ETFs, ARK Invest, which by the way, Cathie Wood from ARK Invest, CEO of ARK Invest, is on the board of directors of Amun, right? And my boss, James Wang, is a former ARK Invest analyst. He's head of our token business. So strong ARK connections. We actually filed for a Bitcoin ETF in North America with ARK Invest together. So we're coming out with a Bitcoin ETF in the US. So Anthony Pompliano, famous YouTuber in crypto, is an investor in our company. So we have $2 billion in assets under management, and we're in over 29 countries today. So like a huge opportunity. And to be able to bring index tokens to people is really compelling. One, because in like an ETP, you can't send that to someone in like another continent, right? Versus if you have a token on Uniswap that you can buy, or a crypto exchange like Bitmart, you can send that token to anyone, anywhere in the world. That's number one. Number two, our index tokens are kind of like actually owning like physical gold, where you can get our token, you can burn our index token and receive all the underlying collateral tokens in your wallet address. So you actually own the cryptocurrencies with our index. Three is there's a lot of interesting properties, so we could even like stake the cryptocurrencies in the future, our index tokens and everything, right? There's a lot of technological advantages to having tokenized index products versus having it in the traditional stock market world. So that's kind of a big direction of our company. I'm excited about that direction. And that's an example of many things in crypto, whether it's Celsius, whether it's what we're doing, whether it's with other projects I'm an investor in, like called IntelliBridge, where you get 10% interest on cash. Like that's something that your grandmother could benefit from, right? The world of crypto has really exploded. The use cases have exploded. You're seeing it in NFTs and artwork, but what happens if NFTs can also back legal contracts for your mortgage or homes or whatever, or your government ID or your healthcare medical card? I think blockchain technology basically replaces legal contracts in like 10 to 15 years, right? When you're looking at blockchain technology and supply chain, and carbon credit trading, the ability to disintermediate lawyers and accountants and have everything run through smart contracts. That's like really revolutionary stuff. And no one in the media is talking about it, right? That's how early we are in this phase. This is the potential technology, but people run around talking about, Dogecoin and like artwork, right? So like we're still super early and the exciting use cases haven't even come to market. So for all of you in the crowd, there's so much potential. Blockchain is not industry like a healthcare or a retail, it's horizontal. So it gives you the optionality to go between different industries. That's what's great about consulting. Consulting gives you the optionality to find the industry you really care about. Blockchain gives you that same type of ability, right? It is the future. It's where so much value creation is going to be made. Blockchain technology is like in 2010 to 2015, there's kind of like a range of 5 years where there's a lot of fintech companies proliferating in the US. But fintech companies are really just really nice user interfaces on top of really terrible financial architecture, right? But with blockchain technology, you just completely rip that backend architecture out and you completely rebuild it from the ground up with automated market makers and with like all these new financial mechanisms. And that's what's really exciting, that blockchain is reinventing the world. And if I could leave off the main portion of my talk with this quote from Jack Dorsey, where he said that if YouTube and like Twitter and like Facebook all existed after tokenization existed, the business models will be completely different because none of those three companies would have to rely on advertising revenue. And that would completely affect their algorithms, right? And would completely affect their monetization models. So the world that blockchain is creating is actually insane. The fact that like you basically get paid to play video games is like actually insane. The fact that like what we are co-creating a future together, it's really exciting to see. A lot of uncertainty with it, but certainly a lot of fun with it. So yeah, I'm happy to go into Q&A about my personal life, my views on blockchain, any topics. I want to leave a lot of time, half the time for Q&A right now, and to go into things. So feel free. As you can tell, I have no filter. So ask whatever question, don't hold back. I want to hear some spicy stuff today. And yeah, thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Ronald. So if you guys have questions, I'll kind of go around the room and ask them. I'm going to start off with some questions that we already have pre-submitted through a questionnaire we sent out, but be thinking about them and we'll pass them on to Ronald. So you talked about blockchain as a whole, but what areas do you see the most promising right now overall in blockchain?
Decentralized finance. Decentralized finance is the killer app for blockchain tech. Yield is the killer app. The fact that your bank account gives you like 0.04% interest rate is like really pathetic, right? And the fact that if you go to, I'm gonna plug this like IntelliBridge, if you go with the cash app, you get 10% stable interest rate. That's insane. That sounds like a scam. But if you look into it, like fundamentally, there's a group of depositors and there's a group of borrowers. The borrowers want the depositor money for loans, right? A bank sits in the middle and facilitates it. The bank captures all the value. And then so the end consequence is if you're a borrower, there's a high interest rate you pay. If you're a depositor, very low interest rate you gain. The bank keeps it and they give it to CEOs, the salaries, executive compensation. They give it to a board of directors and shareholders. They give it to lawyers and accountants, very expensive. Real estate, all the buildings and properties, right? Expensive. So the bank captures all the value in the middle, right? And what people don't even realize is that if you deposit $100 in a bank, they will loan out $1,000, fractional reserve banking. So it's actually really friggin' risky what they do, right? That's why we have all these financial crises. But the thing is, the government says, hey guys, FDIC, it's insured. It's okay. You can put your money in the bank. What people don't realize is the entire account amount of the FDIC is not enough to insure any of the top 5 banks if they go bankrupt. So like if any of the top banks actually go bankrupt, FDIC insurance actually can't cover them, right? Now I can say, well, okay, the government can pass a bill that will like, pay people off whole. And that is true. I'm just talking about the institution FDIC is like not actually it can't cover people. And banks, because they have the government backing, they can do really risky behavior and just know that they'll get a bailout, right? So like it's actually really bad. But there is you can opt out of that system. You don't have to conform to it. You can opt out because with decentralized finance, what happens is it's a group of borrowers and they borrow money from the depositors. There are smart contracts, computer algorithms that facilitate all of that. So with the smart contracts, the end result is the people who borrow money borrow at like a 1% interest rate. The people who deposit money get like a 10% interest rate. And there are all these mechanics to really make it work out. But by disintermediating the bank, it creates so much value for all the participants in the ecosystem. So that is a killer use case. It's very economically clear to me. Like with NFTs, like I get it, like video game skins, like the difference between a real Mona Lisa and a print of a Mona Lisa, right? Like I get it. But that's like subjective, that's psychological. Decentralized finance is like very analytical, it's very numerical, it's very quantitative that I would rather get a loan at 1% interest rate than someone, like getting like a 15% interest rate on like a car loan or like whatever, or a credit card, like mispayment or whatever, right? And the great thing about decentralized finance is that it's very open and non-discriminatory. It doesn't matter what your credit score is. It doesn't matter whether you've gone to jail or not. It doesn't matter whether you're super young or what your ethnicity is. It doesn't matter. What matters is a universal set of rules and everyone follows by the rules. And it's really empowering that anyone can really participate in decentralized finance and really receive and the value that comes out of it. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So you explained kind of like the lending and borrowing process you might go through a company like BlockFi or Celsius with, but a concern I've seen with that is the volatility of prices. So if you take out a loan out for a certain price and it doubles in value, or conversely, it loses 50% of its value, how do you account for that when lending and borrowing?
So two-part answer to that question. The first part is I look and I say, I give a quote from Michael Saylor. Wouldn't you rather have volatility for the upside than guaranteed inflation, like hitting you and eroding your value? So when I worked at Humana, we all got like a 2% raise when I left the company. And I was like, 2% raise, that's really fantastic. The the problem is inflation has been 10% this past year. So I told all my colleagues at Humana in a presentation on my last day of work that guys, like 2% raise, 10% inflation. Humana is really paying you 8% less than what they paid you last year. Sorry to break your hearts a little bit. So the volatility of cryptocurrency exists, and that shows how early we are. Bitcoin has none of the properties of like what it should be. It should be a store of value, but Bitcoin today trades like a super crazy high beta tech stock, right? It trades like Tesla on crack, right? So that's how you know it's still so early. When Bitcoin is kind of like 2-3 million, then it'll kind of start being that stable, reliable store of value. Right now, it's very easily manipulable, right? And it's something that I think doesn't make a really great medium of exchange, right? Because if you're like in El Salvador, can you afford for your value to go down 35% in a month? Probably not, right? So it's still early for a lot of the cryptocurrencies, right? And it's all about individual risk tolerance. None of this is financial advice. Just know what your risk tolerance is and what you're willing to completely lose, right? Everything that I invested in, like I am fine losing it because I don't have 100% of my net worth in crypto. It's like, I don't know, 25-30%. So I'm fine like losing everything. And when I was like early out, and I tend to be a long-term holder, right? I don't let price affect my viewpoint of an investment. I look at the fundamentals. And so if the price goes down, it just gives me a buying opportunity, right? And if a part of my fundamental investment thesis changes, even if at an all-time high, I'll buy more because what matters to me is the fundamentals, right? I bought Tesla in 2013 for that very reason. And in 2019, when it went down to like from $400 to like 185, I said, this is silly if you look into like the fundamentals of it. And I put over 90% of my portfolio in Tesla. Worked out pretty well. I think split adjusted, it's like around $4,000 right now. Yeah, like when you look in cryptocurrencies, just if you're willing to lose everything you have, you know, you won't freak out, and that's, you know, you won't have that crazy gambler mentality to it, and you can be okay riding it out for 10 years. It's about doing your research and constantly evaluating it, and know it'll be fine. A lot of people, perhaps most people, don't have the time to devote to that level of research, in which case they can buy an index product. So you like that chill at the very end? So yeah. Oh, second part of the answer. There is a lot of stuff in cryptocurrency that's not dependent on actually buying like Ethereum or Bitcoin, right? Like what I was talking about with IntelliBridge and Cash. 10% stable interest on Cash, right? Like the app is called Cash DeFi. So you put, you know, your money in and you get 10% stable interest. That's really friggin' good. All right. Like your friend who owns an ice cream shop could benefit from that. So cryptocurrency is not just about speculation into Bitcoin. There are a lot of things in blockchain technology that can really benefit you. There's stablecoin stuff, there's lending, there's you know, decentralized finance. There's so many things that you can get different types of returns for different investor profiles. So there's something for everyone. It's not just a bunch of degenerate gamblers in the crypto world. So hopefully that is a comprehensive enough answer.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So kind of in there, you talked about buying ETPs. What's the advantage of getting an ETP versus just going and buying the crypto itself and like holding it in a wallet?
If you have like a tax advantage account, like in the US, you have an IRA, you can't pull your money from an IRA, right? Otherwise you get a tax penalty for it. But within your IRA, if you can buy like Bitcoin, that's why like Grayscale is so big, like GBTC, because you can just buy it in your like 401k or your IRA, your tax advantage accounts. That's the main advantage. If you're not in a tax advantage account, you probably should just buy the actual crypto. But from a user experience perspective, it's like psychologically nice when all your assets are together in like a single website. So a lot of people value that, and they don't like want to learn how to do something new, right? So it just depends on each individual person's investor profile.
Have you like seen a difference in age, so like a younger demographic more so wanting to buy the coin itself, and like more an older audience looking at ETPs?
That's correct. That's the right characterization.
Sure. All right, I'll kind of open up to the room. Anyone have any questions at the moment? I've got more queued up, so don't worry, but just wanted to give you guys an opportunity.
You can also, like, I guess, George or Conrad, you could type it on the Zoom chat as well, and I can read that off. But yeah, anyone in the audience.
Hey, we got a question coming in, Ronald. Let me know if you can hear it.
Cool.
Money, like video games, what do you mean by that? Like blockchain or whatnot?
Yeah. You hear the question?
I can. No.
So he was asking about, you're talking about like the pay to play structure in video games. Could you explain a little more what that's like or how that works or what the advantages are to that?
I don't know the super details of it. I don't do it myself. I just know that conceptually, you pay like $1,000 to play AngSiy to even begin playing it. And as you play it, you receive tokens as rewards for activities you do. And the tokens like increase in value, or you get more tokens emitted to you. The combination of those two activities give you wealth if you were to theoretically sell out of the tokens and translate it to fiat. So that's how you're making money. And that just keeps growing based on the adoption of the user base. The more people that use the game and the mechanics to receive the reward tokens from the game. It's kind of like Bitcoin mining, right? The more people that adopt Bitcoin, the hash power that comes from that, and the stronger the network gets, the network effects that come from that. Same thing with any decentralized application that has like those tokenomics built into it. Except the games actually just gamify it, right?
There's some discussion going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, like sum it up, you get paid in cryptocurrency for playing a game, and then you can then exchange that for like fiat currency, like a US dollar. So essentially like getting paid to play games. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Okay, I've got some more here. So the question is, if passed, will the pending U.S. regulation under the infrastructure bill adversely affect Amun/21 shares? And are you optimistic about the U.S.'s regulatory alignment with crypto moving forward?
Amun, that's why Amun and 21 shares are technically two separate legal entities, even though we basically have the same management team. That gives Amun the flexibility to be decentralized finance and go anywhere, while as 21 shares is heavily regulated in Europe. We have like 3 different law firms, and we talk to like all the major regulatory bodies in the US and Europe like every week. That is hard. We'll see what regulations look like. On a broader level, I'm really sad about the regulations of crypto in the US because what happened in the tech boom is that the United States let all the tech companies do whatever they want, and that's how we got Silicon Valley, right? All the tech companies are in the US. What's the major tech company in Europe? Like SAP? Come on. So like it shows the value of free market capitalism. And the unfortunate thing is that that story is not happening right now in cryptocurrency. There's a lot of regulation, and that's because the U.S. has more to lose in this battle, because the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency, and that's where a lot of its strength comes from in money printing. Um, there's a level of protectionism around the U.S. dollar and against cryptocurrencies. The result of that is Aave, one of the major decentralized finance protocols, is based in Europe. Polygon, one of the major scaling networks for Ethereum, based in India. My favorite crypto network, cryptocurrency, Luna, under the Terraform Labs, that is based in South Korea. A lot of these top quality projects are like not based in America, right? And that's really, really sad to see. And it's unfortunate that people in the US view it as a threat to the government when they should be accepting and embracing it, because the proliferation of stablecoins in general leads to increased power for the US government, because a stablecoin is pegged to the US dollar, right? And when people transacted that, it's a term called dollarization, where like countries dollarize to basically make the US dollar their default currency. And that creates a lot of power for the US government at that point, right? And it's what we need to go against China and digital yuan in China, because in a normal world, China is a command and control economy, right? Because they can centrally direct all their activities, they work much more efficiently than the US government, which is slow to do anything intentionally set up by our founders. The way to counteract that is that no matter how fast and how dictatorial the Chinese government is in their actions, they cannot beat 10,000 independent entrepreneurs with 10,000 private companies trying to get rich and create crypto projects that are based on stablecoin technology, which is stablecoins largely on the US dollar, right? So you can't beat 10,000 competitors. Eventually, some of them will be highly successful, right? So the US needs to recognize that stablecoins are important to national security, and that empowering cryptocurrencies to really proliferate around the world is a nationalistic imperative. I hope the lobbyists can get that message through to state legislators. I know Kansas has had a couple of weeks with banning like BlockFi and Celsius. That's really unfortunate what's happening there. You guys should tell the lawmakers, hey, if you care about the interest of the country, you will let blockchain technology do its thing, because that is what's going to lead us to beat the digital yuan in the future, right? So that is hopefully a change in the narrative, a reframing of the scenario that will hopefully happen soon. If not soon, a lot of the wealth is going to go away from the US, and a lot of the innovation and brain power and capital and prosperity is going to go to other countries. And it gives countries like Switzerland, for example, an opportunity to leapfrog in GDP multiple spots, right? Multiple tiers. So we'll see how that environment changes. People say it'll be slow. I disagree. If you look at the Forbes article last year, their research showed that the decentralized finance world into the 2020 went from 1 billion to 88 billion in a single year. And then we'll see what it looks like in 2021, right? It's a change can happen very fast. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Go for it.
I was thinking like his thoughts on the People's Bank of China banning transactions through crypto coins, like how it will inflate or value.
It's an interesting calculus China's making between control and power, right? Do they want to control how things are ran with a digital yuan, or do they want to hoard the power with all the Bitcoin hash power being centralized in China? China chose control over power by banning Bitcoin mining, which, by the way, still like 40% of the hash power still comes in China. So like, effective ban there, right? And I'm not even sure it was a complete ban. I think it might have only been against like coal sources in certain cities, right? China bans Bitcoin more than I make New Year's resolutions to lose weight. So, it's interesting what's going on. You see interesting little signals, like read some news about China attempt to digital yuan take over Africa kind of being rejected. African private and state institutes are rejecting digital yuan right now. And look into even adoption rates of digital yuan within China. People are stuck on Alipay and WeChat still. It's really hard to get people to move over to a currency where they can say, hey, we don't like what you said on social media, we're going to take away your money. Or, hey, you didn't pay your taxes, we can automatically take away your money. Or, hey, you need to spend your money in 3 months, otherwise we're going to take it away, right? So it's really hard to get adoption when like those are the long-term potential possibilities that can come with digital cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, right? And that's what's so innovative about the free market is that you look at USDC, you look at DAI, you look at UST from the Terra ecosystem. They have a lot of unique and interesting properties that are driven by free market capitalism because they all want to be the #1 market share leader. So they all have innovative experiments and mechanisms they're playing around with, right? So interesting to follow. We'll see what happens. China has a lot to lose, and the United States has a lot to lose. We'll see which of those two countries decides that they should really empower and enable cryptocurrencies to really proliferate first. Both of them are kind of screwing up right now, in my opinion. Yeah.
Awesome. Good response. Any more questions?
You're gonna have to repeat this, but what was the IBM scandal? We were talking about earlier.
Oh, someone was asking about the IBM scandal from earlier. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that on recording or you want to wait till after. Stop.
You can take this off recording later. I'll talk about that. It wasn't like a company scandal, just like my personal life experiences. Yeah. I did not have like a perfect life. I've gone through a lot of failure in my life. If you look at my resume, management consultant, Ivy League, venture capitalist, successful startup founder who exited, now like head of marketing, and like I'm pretty loaded. So like it looks pretty good on paper, but in real life, I went through a lot of tribulations to get to that point. Yeah, like no one was congratulating me when I went all in on Tesla in 2019. Everyone thought I was like fucking crazy. Like when after I graduated Wharton, I was like unemployed for like more than 8 months after I graduated my MBA program. Like I went to an Ivy League school. How do I not have a job after 8 months? So like, yeah, like it's definitely not a perfect route. And since I've gone through that pathway, like if I could go back to my 18-year-old self, there's so many things I would tell myself, like all these prestigious things, like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, right? Making decisions for money, terrible idea. Like it's not like it's very attainable to make money, right? Like there's a lot of life hack things you can do to make money. One of the big things is just not to spend money, be highly frugal. I still have like the McDonald's app on my phone, even though I have like $6 million in my investment account. I still like buy the cheap IKEA $15 desk. So like, there's so many things you can do. Like if, like what I notice is a lot of people like, oh, I only make $60,000 at undergrad. This other person makes $80,000. That sucks. Why? But it's like, well, okay, if you live in a lower cost of living place, your rent alone, when you factor in tax, after tax amount, is like, maybe like $8,000 to like $12,000 difference already. you don't shop at Whole Foods. You know, shop and you buy stuff on discount. That saves you money. You don't buy iPhone, latest iPhone. You get like something cheap, right? Saves you money. And you put that into investments and a diversified portfolio, and that goes up. Every dollar you put in investment today is worth like $15 or like $50 in like 10 years from now, right? Based on what you think of will happen with inflation. Like the small things are multiplicative, and people in undergrad, they look at what their classmates do, especially if they're ambitious, and they're like, oh, what my classmates want to work at McKinsey and Goldman Sachs. I should work at McKinsey and Goldman Sachs because I'm competitive. And it makes a lot of money. And then like making a lot of money is like what, you know, like I want, because like I have no money. And I would look back and I would say that is such a short-sighted thing, because someone who worked at a company who wasn't glamorous than customer support, um, maybe they do customer support, but they stay at the same company for 9 years. Now they're head of customer support, and now they're making like $300,000 a year. While you paid $200,000 to not work for 2 years in an MBA program, they have like $1 million house already. Congratulations, who actually won at life, and all their colleagues love them, right? So there's a lot of pathways to success. A lot of people's decision making when they're young are flawed. A lot of my decision making was flawed when I was young. Just a lot of things to really say what motivates you, what makes you happy every day, and the rest of things in life will take care of itself after that.
Yeah, that was a very candid and great response. I guess kind of segueing from that, there's people in the room who are curious about, you know, kind of getting into the blockchain and crypto startup space. Kind of what do you recommend to kind of get your foot in the door? What skills do you need to have? And then, you know, how do you kind of find the happiness and balance?
It's so early. Like you could just random email CEOs of companies and say like, hey, I'll work for free, right? I just want to get some experience. Like it's so easy to do that in the crypto world. It's so easy. I'll be a community manager and I'll do it for free. If anyone here wants to volunteer to do community management for free, you can have an internship at my company tomorrow. Right? So like, yeah, like there's a lot of things. You just have to have a little hustle, a little like creativity, roll up your sleeves, be willing to put yourself into things, right? And again, like 1 year ago, I was only had cryptocurrency in Coinbase. Now I'm head of marketing at a $2 billion like crypto company over here. And I'm hosting crypto group dinners with all these organizations. And I'm like networking between all these groups. And like I just agreed to be an advisor on an accelerator with Mark Cuban and Tim Draper today, right? All this shit happened in less than a year. So if you're proactive, the crypto blockchain space evolves so quickly, like you could not know what you're doing. You just run like blindfolded, you'll still stumble upon something good. Amun has some things to help with that. If anyone here is interested in doing some research, we have like a research mentorship program where you can go and, you know, like do some research, and we'll like give you some moral support, resources, and guidance on whatever topics you're interested and passionate about. IntelliBridge with Cash has an ambassador program where you can be ambassador. And there's a referral, so you can actually make like, you know, I think 5% of revenue generated. So if like you refer a rich friend and they put $1 million in cash, the Cash app, then like you would get something like $5,000 out of that. So no, yeah. 5% of 200,000, whatever that number is. So like it's a like things add up pretty quickly. And so like there's so many, I can list off 20 opportunities like that, right? I'm sure Rhett has told you we have an event called Blockchain Brunch where we post internships and jobs every friggin' month from like different blockchain companies and part-time opportunities. You can network with people on Blockchain Brunch. You have all these topics sessions where like people are speakers. We had a session led by Celsius last month, how to get a job in crypto. So anyone could have joined that, right? And network with the guy afterwards and probably got a job at Celsius. So I think the greater problem is with all these crypto opportunities you'll get in a year from now, what's going to be your motivation to finish school and get a degree? There's so many opportunities, jobs all over the place. You get a job, you get a job, you get a job. So, if anyone wants to talk further, you can DM me afterwards or email me afterwards, right? There's so many things to do. But everyone in this call should join Blockchain Brunch and invite all their classmates to join Blockchain Brunch. The student organization that brings the most people to Blockchain Brunch this month, I'm giving $500 in cryptocurrency to. So yeah, network, get known in the industry. Things escalate quickly. I'm an example of that. So yeah.
Yeah, is there any certain skills you see that are, that help translate to that job? You talked about networking to find, companies or connections, but I think there's maybe a little bit of a misnomer that the only way you can get involved in the space is if you're like a computer science major and you write code. But yes, that's definitely an avenue, but as a whole, what skills you need to have to be able to kind of emerge in this space?
If you're a Rust developer, even if you spend 1 year trying, you can easily get like a $200,000 job. Outside of that, data science, right? Making charts and graphs, on-chain analysis, you can easily get something from that. Being a community manager, all these cryptocurrency companies need community managers. If you can tell me that you can get 3,000 people to join our Discord server in 3 months, I don't care if you're a student, I'll pay you $5,000 right now. like that is a very important skill, community building. Like, GameStop and AMC, right? The whole Reddit phenomenon. If you can leverage an audience of people to collectively go and join and be part of a community, it's a very valuable skill set. Customer service, valuable skill set. Sales, valuable. How do you convince rich people who don't have cryptocurrency to give $1 million into a cryptocurrency thing? If you're good at that, there's a job for you, right? There's so many jobs. Designer, right? A lot of cryptocurrency looks ugly. I think like 95% of NFTs look ugly. So there's a lot of potential all over the place in cryptocurrency, no matter what your background is.
Awesome. Anyone else have any questions? We're kind of nearing time at 8 p.m. here, but does anyone have any last minute questions they want to ask? Okay, I think we're out of questions here. Ronald, do you have any kind of parting thoughts or words you want to say?
One, join Blockchain Brunch and invite all your friends and classmates. I want to see all of you. If you are not on Blockchain Brunch this month, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to be so sad. So October 16th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. I want all of you to get all your friends to join. I want like 30 people from your university to be in Blockchain Brunch. Two, I'm always available and accessible. Add me on LinkedIn, add me on Facebook, add me on Discord, whatever. I'm always accessible, right? It's tough, right? Life is tough. There's a lot of ambiguity to navigate through. And just know that navigating ambiguity is like more important than like test taking. And that it's okay if you screw up. I screwed up a lot in my career. I still did pretty well. I can tell you about all the mistakes I made, right? It's not about one decision that makes or breaks your life. It is the culmination of the 15,000 decisions you make every single year and the 150,000 decisions you make over every single decade that cumulatively add up. And any one decision that you make could be the difference in making your entire life, in changing your whole trajectory. You make so many decisions every day, every week, and one decision could be the one that changes the outcome of your life. So don't get too caught up over where you are in your life position right now. It's very flexible, and there's always opportunity. And it's something where nothing is ever end of the world. Like things change so much over a period of time. Blockchain is the future. It's an exciting area to be in. And all my stock investing friends in the last 3 years turned into blockchain investing, cryptocurrency investing friends. because that's where all the alpha is. Yeah, more than happy to chat. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And yeah,